What we have right here is the 2024 Mercedes EQS SUV. And now I've said a lot about the design of the EQ series. I'm not a huge fan of the bean-shaped design that we have, but I do think the SUV, this one looks a lot better than the sedan for some reason, even though this has more of a minivan proportions over SUVs. So I've been driving this for a few days now, and I have a lot to say about this car, both when it comes to the design and the interior, but also how this car drives. This is the 450 4MATIC, meaning that we have dual motors. You have the 450 Basic, which has rear-wheel drive. Adding dual motor is going to reduce the range a little bit, 285 miles of range for this one. And the price for this is about $120,000. So what we're going to do in this video is have a look at this design from the front, side, and rear. And then, of course, we're going to take this for a drive. Let's start with a quick walk around of the EQS. Now, the reason I'm not a huge fan of the EQ series design is if you look at the design itself, it's very smooth. It's almost too smooth, and they went with 100% aerodynamics for this car. But now that we have new EVs that look pretty boxy, but they still have a decent range. And when you think about it, the range for this is a 4MATIC, the all-wheel drive version of the EQS SUV, and this only has a range of 285 miles of range, and if you go with the rear-wheel drive, you're gonna get 305. So the range is not fantastic, meaning that they could probably have went with a bit more Mercedes-like styling and design for this car, and that's exactly what I'm gonna do in this video as well. I'm gonna redesign the proportions of this car to make it look more in line with what I think a Mercedes SUV should look like. Now, looking at the front end here, there is not a lot going on. It feels like it lost some of its identity because, again, everything is so smooth. But what I do love about the design is you look up at the hood here, we do have these SLK from 1997, these lines in the hood, which is typical Mercedes. And this also has the AMG package, which switches out some of the trim to gloss black. We also have the AMG wheels for this, 21 inches. So starting at the front end, full LED headlights, as you can see right here, with 3 dots or slits like this for the daytime run lights, and of course this big light bar that we have going up top that then goes into the indicator light right here. Full LED automatic high beams as well. We have a huge grille, and everything here sits flush with the bodywork. So have a look at just how smooth everything is going into the front end. We have an absolutely massive Mercedes logo here. Behind here, you're gonna find all the radar and the LiDAR and whatever radars this car has. You do have a front-mounted camera right here, and a bunch of small little Mercedes stars in the grille as well, with some chrome trim up top and the Mercedes logo up on the hood. Further down, we do have some AMG specific trim here. We do have some side curtains here that are actually functional, as you can see, that we can see straight through here. But overall, I don't know, it just feels like this was the first iteration of Mercedes EVs, and I do think they went a little too hard with the overall roundness of this design. It lost a lot of its identity for sure. Now, coming around to the side view, and yes, it is snowing today. So 2 days ago, we had a typical Colorado weather. I shouldn't be surprised by it, but I'm still very surprised by how quick the weather changes here. So we had 70 degrees, 75 degrees a couple of days ago. And now we have a winter storm warning coming in. So looking at the side view here, same goes here. Look at the proportions here. It feels like a minivan to me, with these stretched out proportions and pretty low sitting roof as well. And the body itself goes very low down. So we have the 21-inch AMG wheels, in this case specific for the AMG package. You can see the AMG up there. And we have 275mm wide tires in the front. Let's see if we have the same in the rear end here. So we have 275 all around at 21s, and the design on these wheels, I mean, they look decent for EV wheels. I guess they look decent. I've always been a fan normally of Mercedes wheels. In this case, I give them a 5 out of 10 since this is an EV. Now, coming around to the rear end. First of all, we do have the indicators here. We do have EQS here. If you want to fill up your washer fluid, you just fill it right here. Since we can't open the hood of this car, it has a lot of cooling system of ventilation underneath here, so we can't open this up. It feels like that's maybe a little waste of space. We also have the black cladding right here, specific for the AMG package, being gloss black. Now looking at the rear end, if we look at it from this angle, or maybe from this angle right here, I feel like it looks a lot like a Porsche, just more of a minivan again style than the Porsche. I do think this is probably my favorite view because we still have a bit of a muscle going over the rear axle here, and I'm kind of a fan of the taillight design that we have here, even though everything is so organic, everything is so curved and rounded, and we don't have a specific chamfer here underneath this. It just sits flush with the bodywork. Have a look at this. It's just a small little edge here, so it doesn't feel like the taillight design is welcomed in the rear end, if that makes sense. But we also have some very interesting internal pieces with this spiral thing going on in the LEDs here, and we have a lot of dots for the indicator down here as well. And we have the EQS 450, the Mercedes badge, which is also the camera right there underneath, and it also opens up the trunk. We do have decent space back here, and if you want to fold down the rear seats, you just use these buttons here. Hold it down and it's gonna fold them back down to, of course, add more space in the back, but let's keep them up for now. Other than that, it's very wide in here, so don't have any dirty stuff. Back here is gonna make a lot of stains. You don't want that. This is, of course, power assisted rear end as well. So overall, I don't know, let me know what you think about the EQ series for Mercedes overall. Do you like the sedan better than the SUV? As I said, personally, I do think I actually like, can't believe I'm saying this, but I think I actually like the SUV better than the sedan. I would want to have this being hidden underneath here because everything else is so clean on this design. So this just sticks out too much. I just want to have it be hidden under there. Further down, we do have some chrome trim. This, again, being a Mercedes, gotta have a splash of chrome down here. Feels like they tried to make that look. These pieces look like exhaust pipes. You also have some fins down here, probably for some aerodynamic reasons. And that is the exterior of the EQS. So let's jump in and have a look at the massive, I think it's 54-inch screen that we have in the interior of this car. Holy moly, my hands are freezing, so I'm looking forward to jumping in here. But before we do that, let's get an overview of this hyper screen that we have in the EQS. Just looks absolutely massive. Just a big glass panel across the entire dash, but the craftsmanship, thankfully, is still intact for Mercedes. You have this beautiful ambient lighting up here, which you can customize, I think 64 colors or something like that. You have these metal pieces for the seating position. You have the heated seats right here, ventilated seats. You have the settings, preset settings for the seat itself. You also have, of course, the normal window button here, but everything feels very, very high quality. Just look at this beautiful wood that we have here, for example, going into this leather with, again, the ambient lighting going in here. These seats, some of the most comfortable seats I've ever sat in. It also has massage functions. So you can choose between, I think it's 5 or 6 different massage settings. I'm going to show you that right now. But let's jump in. Use this little side step here, Mercedes-Benz lit up. Let's jump in here. And let's, first of all, fire up the car so that we do get some warmth in here. I really hope that summer will arrive soon. I guess we're gonna have to wait and find out. But I have the hazards on, turn that off. Overview again, very white, clean, bright looking interior. We do have this sunroof up here. So you just swipe your finger like this, and it's gonna open up the entire roof up there. Pretty fancy stuff, both in the back and in the front end here. And it's a huge glass panel up top as well. So starting with this 17-inch screen that we do have in the middle, it's absolutely huge. The thing that I would like to change here is to just cut the screen off in this area, so then we can have, you see this panel down here, that is all the climate control settings. Just make this into a separate unit control panel with physical dials and buttons. That's what I would like to see for the change of this screen right here. But now everything is digitalized, everything is within the software itself. We can go and check out what we have inside here of this Mercedes EQ. Let's click here what this is. This is the battery charging and the battery status. We have the range, 224 miles. We're going to talk more about the range in a minute when we go for a drive. The consumption as well. So let's go back and see what else we have here. This is the cool part here. Massage and ambient lighting. Here are all the ambient lighting settings you have. You can choose between all of these colors. You can see that it switches up here and on the side, everywhere on the interior. Beautifully done. I do like this. Some say that it looks like you know, a mid-2000s nightclub, but I actually like what Mercedes is doing when it comes to the interior ambient lighting. I think it looks cool. Going into massage, and here you have a bunch of different settings for your massage. I like the deep workout setting. It starts to, now it starts to work on my back, and then it goes in and starts in the bottom of the seat as well. It does actually feel pretty nice. Normally when I have massage seats in cars, it doesn't really do anything. You just feel some weird things in your back. But here, it actually feels pretty good. And I'm surprised by that. They're pretty intense. You can have the different intensity here. If you want less intense, you just turn this off. So very clean layout for the software itself, even though, yes, I do like to have more physical buttons, because this is just too sterile, too clinical for me, even though the craftsmanship is still here. Of course, this being a Mercedes. And Mercedes has always had this ability to just make their cars feel special. And I do feel like that's happening here with the EQ series as well, at least for the EQS. So there's a lot you can do in the software. As you can see, we have the off-road mode here, which is going to raise up the suspension a little bit. If you put it in off-road settings, you can see all the degrees that we have right now, and the suspension, the drive. You can go into camera settings here and see the front end of the camera. If you put it in drive, it should show you what's underneath the car. You can see that it's sort of rendering as we go what is actually underneath the car. Very, very cool. And here you have the controls for the ride height, so you can raise up the car if you want to do that by about an inch. Overall, this rides on the same platform as the EQS, but it has an 8.7-inch ground clearance. So if you're looking for an EQS, basically the same car as the EQS, but of course in this type of package with a higher ride height, then I think, the EQS might actually be for you. Let's go into settings here and let's see what we have here. We have a bunch of different light settings. We have vehicle settings, assistance, all of these drive assist that you have right here. You can see those here if you want to turn them off or turn them on. And now, in addition to this 17-inch screen here, we also have two 12.3-inch screens, one for the gauge cluster right here and another one for the passenger. So if someone is sitting here, they can watch a movie or something like that, or YouTube, or do whatever they want, turn on their own massage seats. But if the car notices that a passenger is watching something over there, and I'm driving in this car, and then I look over to the screen over there, it's actually going to pause whatever is playing there, because the car notices that I, as a driver, am not watching ahead. It notices that I'm watching on the screen, and that is pretty creepy. Then we have the gauge cluster here at 12.3-inch, and I also love the software here, because we go in here, we can choose classic layout, sport, understated. I kind of like the sport with this little bubble thing in the middle, and when you drive you can see how the acceleration goes up here, and the regen braking on the minus level here. I'm going to show you that when we take this for a drive. You also have an option here, and this is augmented reality navigation, and this is very, very cool. So you see up there, this is one of the best head-up displays I think I've ever seen. It just looks very cool when you drive this with the navigation on, the augmented reality, because it shows up with arrows in the head-up display and also on the navigation down here. And as I said, this augmented navigation is about $2,000 option. Let's have a look at the let's check out the options list here. What we have. Actually, we don't have the Maroni in here, so I'm just gonna show it up here on the screen so you can check out all the options that this one has. As I said, over $120,000 for this car, as this one is optioned. I do think the base price is about 105, 106,000, something like that. So moving on to the steering wheel here, looking great. I do like this design, but I definitely prefer, I want to have the AMG steering wheel for this car, because that looks even better than this. We do have a lot of gloss black here, and these are touch sensitive, so you don't really press, or you kind of press them, but then you swipe up and down on these arrows to kind of pick whatever it is you want to adjust here. You can have the full map there as well. These paddles are not for the gearbox, obviously. We don't have a gearbox. We have a one-speed gearbox. These are for the regen braking. You can adjust them here to have strong recuperation, normal, or no recuperation at all. I always like to have it in strong, because that makes it very easy to just drive as, you know, one pedal driving, because the braking is very hard, very rough when you have it in strong recuperation. And it also means that you charge the battery more. It just makes sense to me. And these stalks on the side here as well, just look at the craftsmanship here of this design itself. Here you have the gear selector. Press it down for driving, you press it up for reverse. It's going to pop up the rear view camera and the 360 camera as well. And look at the resolution here, just great resolution, both for the 360 and the normal camera as well. And if you want to look at the sides, you can do that in high resolution as well. Looking great. It just looks great. I love Mercedes camera systems that they have. One of the best in the business. Further down, we can close this up first of all. If you want to have a clean layout here, just look at how clean this is with this wood that goes here. And also I forgot to mention these vents that we have on the side. Turbine looking style for these designs. It's a little bit flimsy. I would like to have a little bit more resistance in these, but the overall interior, even though we have a huge screen here, or 3 different screens, I can still feel the Mercedes quality in here. So let's open this up. Down here we do have the wireless charging, and I do like when car companies does this, because you can see here, when you have your phone here, you can't really see all the notifications, so it's out of the way, out of your sight, so it doesn't distract you. And I do like when car companies does that. You have 2 USB-Cs. We have, I guess, the key compartment here, because there's a little key there. 2 cup holders, and this is what the key looks like. Also a beautiful looking key for Mercedes with this aluminum style chamfer going around it. Lock, unlock, and open the trunk right here. I do think this is the panic button. I could be wrong, but overall a beautiful looking key. 2 cup holders, as I said, and here you have the controls for the volume. So this is not really a piece that I'm a fan of, because it doesn't feel like you're clicking the entire thing when you're clicking on something here, and it feels a little weird. I want to have them be separate buttons here, but here you have the drive mode select, so you have the off-road button here, or drive mode. You have the eco, comfort, sport, and you can set it up individually if you want to fiddle around with your individual settings and have that as a drive mode. You have the start stop button, camera button, the EQ button, and the hazard here as well, and these are just for the volume controls. Opening up this beautiful looking armrest, you're gonna see that we have a very deep compartment here, and yeah, I do have my gloves there because I should have worn them when I was filming outside. We also have 2 USB-Cs right there lit up in the same ambient lighting as the rest of the interior. So with that said, I do think we talked about everything in the front end. So let's jump into the back seat. And let's see, this is pretty much my driving position. If I don't fit back there now, I'm gonna be very surprised, because this is a very long and huge car. So let's see. Also, these pop in when you lock them. When you open them up, it's gonna pop up like this. When you drive, you're gonna sit flush with the bodywork. Overview of the back seat, looking pretty clean. We don't have the 3-row in this case, but you can equip this with a 3-row setup if you want to. So jumping back here, I'm just very worried that I'm gonna mess this white finish or leather up every time I go in this car, because if I have stuff on my shoes or my fingers have some stuff on them, I might just smear some dirt onto this beautiful interior. But back here we have 4 climate zones, so we have 2 in the front and 2 in the back here as well. We also have heated seats back here, which is pretty nice to have. If we fold down this entire middle section, solid piece of armrest, you're gonna see that we have another screen here, and you can pop this up if you want to, like this, and have it as a tablet. And this then controls pretty much everything that goes on in the back seat. For the comfort, for example, you can push that and then see the different settings for your rear passengers, or you can just go into the settings and fiddle around with the ambient lighting back here as well. So pretty cool to have this mini iPad in the back seat. There's a lot of screens here, as you can see. In addition to the 17, we have 12.3 there, 12.3 inch there, and then we have, I'm not sure, this looks like maybe a 7-inch or something like that. And you also have a wireless charging underneath this armrest. I don't see any cup holders back here except for in the doors, but if you pop this open, you're gonna see that you have slots where you can rest your phone. You can put your phones down here if you want to. Let's fold this back up, and there is one more thing I want to show you here, and this is the USB slots. Now these headrests are some of the most comfortable headrests I've ever sat in. You have this very soft and plush pillow up top, and you can also adjust it back and forth by pressing this little button here. All right, guys, I can almost whisper in here because it is so quiet. Now, when it comes to the driving of this EQS, it is probably the most comfortable EV I've ever driven. It still feels like an EV for sure. You know, I think that's you can see the little AI brain here of the EQS when you go into system. That's funny, they made it into a circuit brain. But let's go into the home screen and let's get out of this parking lot. And just driving over this parking lot right here in Red Rocks, usually I'm bumpy all over the place, but in this EQS, it's like I'm just floating over this surface. Coming out to some smoother roads here. I'm gonna put it in sport when we get out to the main road. So, as I said, the overall feel for the EQ series, I do think Mercedes is going to switch it up for the next generation of EVs and have them be, I would say, more Mercedes-like in its design and remove this bean shape that we have on pretty much every single EQ car right now. And when it comes to the drivability, it still feels, as I said, Mercedes just have this ability to make their cars feel so smooth and in a different league than the rest of the competition. Lexus is also up there. My next review, I have a Lexus LX press car right now, which the interior of that car, such a good interior, one of the best interiors of any SUV. I can't wait to show you that in the next review here coming up on the channel. But now we're talking about the EQS. Let me know what you think about this hyperscreen. Are you a fan of having everything be like this, like glass and screens and pixels, even the climate control settings? There's literally not a single button on the screen. You have a few buttons down here, but that's pretty much it. I think this feels less, I've said this before, but this having all pixels like this feels less luxurious than if we were to have some, static or physical buttons for this car like we have with this stock here. This stock just feels high quality because it is physical. I can touch it, I can change stuff with it, and I can feel the click, I can hear what's going on when I adjust that thing. But one thing I do love is the head-up display. So let's see if we can, I can show you the, probably going to show us some augmented reality here. Let's see if we are actually, the augmented reality, have that on. There we go. So now that we come out to the street here, you're gonna see down here and in the, I hope you can see the head-up display. We should get some arrows.
In 200 feet at the
there is the arrows coming up, and they get bigger and bigger the closer you get to the, and you can see that here too. It's so cool. Now we're not gonna drive that way, but I just wanted to show you what the augmented reality looks like, because I think it's such a cool feature. So let's cancel that. Don't want to go anywhere right now, just straight. And let's pop it into sport. Love the graphics that we have here. And also let's put the gauge cluster into sport as well, because the I like the animations that we have. When you step on it, it really looks cool, because you can see it gets red and angry the more power you use. You can see that right there. It looks nice. As I said, some people think it looks like a, you know, nightclub with all the lighting that we have in here. And everything is so shiny, even the lens flares and stuff on the graphics. So what do we have powering this? We have 355 horsepower, 590 pound-feet of torque. I do believe 0 to 60 is about 5.2 seconds. And it does feel like that is the correct number for it. It's not, you know, extremely EV quick like you might be used to. This is, after all, the base model. The only thing it has option-wise when it comes to the drivetrain is the all-wheel drive, which is something that I would pick for this. I would not want to have this in only rear-wheel drive, even though that you get the range, 305 miles compared to 285 with the all-wheel drive. And it also has the normal EV problems, which is when it's cold like today, you can just see the range drop really fast. I started today with 75%, and I've only driven to get some groceries at Trader Joe's and then driven up here, which is not far at all, and we're already down to 63%. Even though I'm not a huge fan of the exterior styling of the EQ series, when you're inside here, when you're driving it, and when you disregard all the glass and the plastic that we have, the screens that we have, in this case, when you're driving this car, this is, again, Mercedes coming in with this magic. It feels like a car that I just can drive forever. It's so comfortable and smooth, even in the sports setting, that it's one of these cars that I don't want to stop driving. And it's still very enjoyable to drive this car, even if it is an EV, and even if you can't really hear what's going on with the engine and so on. It's still a Mercedes in its core, and I'm glad that Mercedes had not, you know, changed the driving experience up too much. So let's turn around here, and let's see if we can go a little slow so we can get some distance to the cars in front of us. Let's just go here. Why not? So going downhill, obviously, it's gonna feel a lot quicker. I love how proper the regen braking is when you have it in strong. I'm not using the brakes at all. I'm just tapping it right now, but just a little tap. But the regen is extremely powerful, and I love that, because it just feels good knowing that when you're dropping off the gas, you can see the regen here in the graphics as well. You know that you're charging the battery of the car in its max setting, so you can't charge it harder or more than what you're doing in this setting. And honestly, this sits pretty low still. As I said, it looks like a minivan, so the handling is actually really good for this car. You also have all the heavy batteries, 6,000 pounds this car, but all the weight is way low in the chassis, or in the height of this car. So the center of gravity still sits very, very low, which of course is going to help the handling. It's actually, it really is a fun car to drive. I did not expect to say this with, you know, driving the EQS SUV, but it's not one of these cars that I feel I'm doing my surroundings a favor driving by them when it comes to the exterior styling. But me sitting inside here, not worrying about anything else than the driving dynamics of this car, I think they did a fantastic job with how this car drives and how it throws around all this weight. Another thing that really helps the handling is that we do have rear wheel steering, meaning that the rear wheels, depending on how fast you go, if you go on the highway, they steer in the same direction as the front wheels to make a smooth transition into different lanes. And when you go slower and around corners like this, they actually turn up to 10 degrees in the opposite direction. So the turning radius of this car, even with this huge wheelbase, is fantastic. So overall, the exterior design, as I said, I want to redesign it, make it more into a proper Mercedes. The interior, I would probably not choose this Hyperscreen. I would go for the base model with the one single screen here, but you can't get that on the 580. In the EQS 580, the standard is the Hyperscreen, so you can only get the base screen setup in the 450. But if I were to spend $120,000 on a Mercedes SUV, I would not get the EQS. I would definitely get the GLE 63 AMG if it was up to me.